Howdy. How you doing? I got this. But that's not the thing I want to show you. I got myself a new dice rolling thing. But I got to show you this. Rolling thing. It's engraved the leather. I love it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back with episode 2 of Doskvol Dandies. We are here with the gang after some brief technical difficulties with getting the Skype call to go through. But we are here now, and we are back after our first successful score for our friend Boz, who runs the
Lamp Blacks.
The Lamp Blacks. And going in to get some red sash coin from a hidden safe house down by the docks. And yeah, that went pretty well. It went off more or less without a hitch, just a little bit of heat coming off from our compatriots. So let's talk a little bit about any questions that the party may have had or anything that any of you wanted to ask about the rules or mechanics since the last time we played. Anything?
I don't think so.
Did I skip a step? Who are the Grey Cloaks?
I believe the Grey Cloaks are the one who helped us acquire Jesse and James.
Right. Okay. I remember now. The inspectors. Okay.
Well, the Grey Cloaks are not the inspectors.
They're not?
The Grey Cloaks were like the City Watcher. The inspectors were more like...
That's the Blue Cloaks. The
Blue Coats.
The Blue Coats. Your gang was established basically by the Feds, which are the inspectors, which are appointed by the Emperor himself.
Right.
I remember this part.
So that basically means that your gang's found... That's something I also wanted to talk about and bring up in this session. Because your gang was basically like founded by narcs. Like you are like a narc gang, somewhat. At least in your origin. So that allegiance or how that relationship evolves between you and the inspectors is something that will likely come up with your interactions with other gangs. The degree to which that stays secret, of course. Or not secret, right?
Mm.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's bring up the sheet for the crew real quick. And take a look at that. So taking a look at this, in our last session, just to briefly recap, you stole 12 coin from the Red Sashes as part of the gang war between them and the Lamp Blacks, who are trying to reestablish their own territories now that the Crows have lost their direct dominion over Crow's Foot, which is where you operate and also have your hideout.
A steadfast supporter.
Oh, somebody's hosting. But anyway, you guys gained a turf. You guys gained some rep from doing that mission because you did something against a group much larger than yourself. You gained 3 coin, not 4 coin, because one person kept a coin for themselves, which is completely fine.
Sorry, guys.
You're not sorry.
No, I'm not.
The Grey Cloaks is another gang from which you got Jesse and James, your rooks, which is why they don't like you. But you did pay 1 coin so that they're not
as mad as they could be.
They're not as mad as they could be.
You paid them off a little bit.
Correct. So, and you also have some connection to the inspectors, and you did that mission for Boz and the Lamp Blacks because you had, you didn't want him to be angry. So I've started a clock. I'm going to find a better way to track the clocks. I'm working on like an overlay for it. I'll probably have it by the next session. But I've started a clock called A Debt Repaid with the Lamp Blacks, and that mission I clicked 204 on that clock, and when that clock is filled, it'll bring your reputation with the Lamp Blacks back up from -1 to neutral. So that'll probably be pretty helpful.
Yep.
Are these clocks supposed to be something we are also keeping track of, or is this only for you?
Many of these clocks are also things that you would keep track of. Any one that I make public is something that you personally can keep an eye on. So that's another thing that I wanted to briefly go over before we move forward. One of my fans from the Netrunner community was kind enough to take the factions of Doskvol sheet that comes in the back of the book and turn it into an editable PDF.
Oh,
So
Nice.
at the start of the game, I'm going to say because of your heat, you currently have a -1 status with the red sashes. You currently have a -1 rep with the gray cloaks. You have +1 with the inspectors. And you have, I don't think, what's the other one? Lampblax. Where's the Lampblax?
It was right above red
Right
slash.
above your mouth. Yep, there you go.
All right. So, yeah. So that's pretty exciting that we have this now, and I'll make sure that this stays saved so we can keep an eye on it, and I'll make it ready and available for anybody who wants to keep an eye on it to track how the gang's relationship to other people. There was a step we missed on gang creation, which was that the gang itself has an additional contact that you can pick. Let me... Oh, no, that's the wrong one. Nope. There we go. You have a contact, which is chosen off of the list that we see here. Can all of you see that all right?
Yes.
So you either have an explorer, a blue coat, a deal broker, a collector, a noble, or a tavern owner. Now, you took as your reputation that you are savvy. So that may or may not factor in here, depending on how you guys decide that you want to do that. But we need to pick a contact, and then as part of picking the contact, you pick one faction that you gain a positive relationship of 1 because they like that contact and that contact as a bridge between your two factions. We can explain that however you like. And another faction is upset because of they either don't like that contact personally, or they have some beef with the faction that person is closer to. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the contacts are pretty amorphous in what they can actually do, right? Similar to your abilities, as long as we can rationally agree to something that's within the purview of that character, we can do it. But what are you guys thinking?
So I just had a quick look. I'm kind of partial to Fitz or Adelaide.
Yeah.
It's
Adelaide.
being,
I mean,
yes.
I already have Jesse and James. Aren't
It's true.
At that social strata.
True.
Yeah.
I would personally be partial to Amancio just coming as a spider. I would like to know people who know people, and the deal broker would certainly seem to know people. That's how my character. That's what my character weighs in on.
Okay.
And first, that I still feel like we might be vulnerable to just outright aggression, and someone who can connect us to or inflict violence on our behalf, or connect us to people who can inflict violence on our behalf, would be my preference. I'm not sure if we've got anyone.
Well, I mean, there's a blue coat. There's a blue coat on there. I mean, he could.
Yeah, but we're already like towing the line of in with like the law.
Well,
True. Yeah.
We are in with kind of the in with one law, out with the other. We could do something whereas the people who created us kind of tipped off the bluecoats to at least get out of our way at the beginning so they can see how we shake up the power structure. Of course, we're going to run afoul of them eventually, but maybe if they told, one constable to just leave us alone for a little while, that could be our positive contact with the blue coat to keep them from getting on us right away.
I kind of
Okay.
like that.
All right. So what was the decision there?
I guess the blue coat.
All right.
Yeah, that's the only one I feel super strongly about. Like the only other one I would be interested in myself as a hound, as someone who needs to be able to find people like that, it would be the tavern owner, but the rest of you don't need that.
All right, so I'm going to do it like that. So then let's go over to the back over to the faction sheet. And so that, I would say, if you have a contact with the Bluecoats, right? Man, you guys are going all in on this cop being narcs.
Oh, man.
But spies will work with whoever wants the information, right?
And if you pay off the system, then, you know, you don't get in trouble.
All right.
At least from the system.
So that means that your positive is with the Bluecoats. So who do we think has a strong negative here against the Bluecoats?
My very first instinct is to say the Crows, because they were the dominant, like the very dominant until this last shakeup. So being as not weakened, but in such a precarious position as they are, I would say it would be the Crows. So
Okay.
all the big ones around us.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, that seems good to me. All right, so let me save this before I forget. All right, so that's saved. So that's our current status. I don't want to belabor this too much. We've got a lot of mild enemies and only a couple of friends, but hopefully that will get better. And our friends are cops, so there's that. Now, it is important to note before we move on that the inspectors and the Bluecoats do not get along very well. The inspectors are like the feds, and they're the people who actually really care about justice being done, whereas the Bluecoats are basically a state-sponsored gang. Right? They are not at all impervious to the woes of corruption.
Okay.
Just something to keep in mind. All right, so now let's talk about downtime activities. You know, you guys successfully completed a mission, and this would be the time when normally what you would do is you would do your downtime and everything that happens in between two scores. We've already done payoff, we've already done heat. So let's talk a little bit, and we already did your entanglement where you guys dealt with Jesse and James getting themselves into trouble. Now let's start with you, Abernathy, because I know that you specifically had a downtime activity in mind that you wanted to take care of.
Yes, I have both of mine, actually. My first is that I must consort with my vice because I have built up 6 stress, which is far too much. So I am going to go to Madame Teslin's Red Lamp for some pleasures of the flesh as my vice.
Okay, so just a high-level talk about it before you make the roll. In this case, how much stress do you have?
I have 6 out of 9 stress.
Okay, so in this juncture, Emerus Abernathy is choosing to try to relieve that stress before his character suffers a trauma level. So by doing this, he's going to roll his lowest attribute, and he's going to take the highest die.
Now, because we got everybody steals, I actually have 2 in each of them. So no matter what I pick, it's going to be 2 dice.
Right.
I got a 3 and a 4, so I take the highest. So I'm going to remove 4 stress. I am down to 2.
Now, it wasn't really possible in that scenario, but if you go searching for relief from stress and you only have 3 or 4, and you happen to roll a 6 on that die, then you have a chance to overindulge in your vice and potentially go missing, bring the heat down, brag too much about your recent exploits increasing heat, or, you know, tipping off a faction that, you know, your recent, windfall was at their expense, etc. So it's interesting, but once you get to the point where you have at least 1 trauma, which is basically what happens when your strength limit break hits maximum, you don't have a choice. You have to go get your fix or you can't carry on.
Yeah, you start suffering stress every session, but since I'm not there yet, I'm good.
Okay. Go ahead.
And everybody gets 2 downtime actions, and I notice we do not have anybody who could possibly heal. We don't have a doctor or a physiker or however or whatever term you wish to use. So I would like to embark on a long-term project to bring one into the fold by my contacts. I know people, and I want to convince one it would be good to come join with us. So what I would like to do is I would like to start off by rolling consort. I would like to go... I'm going to invoke my heritage here. I'm from Tycheros, and Tycheros people are often shunned. I want to go and just schmooze with some of the fellow Tycheros people here and see if any of them are interested in joining us.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure how long term of a project that would be. That's entirely up to you, Dan.
So you're a small gang. You don't have a lot of pull, right? You don't have a lot of renown that would necessarily make that an attractive project right off the bat. So I'm going to make that a 6-tick clock if you want to track that, since that's a personal long-term project for you.
Alrighty. One moment, I have to pull up a Word document because the adjusted one does not seem to have saved as editable. So if you'll give me just a moment, please.
Okay. Now, while you're doing that, does anybody else have... I don't think anybody else really took a ton of stress in the first arc. And nobody has trauma, so I don't think anybody else really wants to go gamble that... Make that gamble and get lost in a gutter somewhere just yet?
No, not quite yet.
Not quite yet? Okay.
Alrighty, so 6-term clock, finding a doctor.
So roll that beautiful beaten footage for us.
Certainly. And my consort is 2, so another 2d6. I got a 6 and a 4. So I believe a 6 is 3 ticks on the clock.
So what I'm gonna say is, you start talking, in very general terms about, a lucrative opportunity to have a retainer. You kind of target people who may be going through the university, who are a little tight on funds, less likely to question the source of a good job, and you find a couple people who are early on in their careers or early on in their educations who are open to that, and they're basically waiting to see the coin or waiting to hear a little bit more about what kind of group that you're a part of, but you've made some positive contacts, and we'll say that the pool of people you have, give me 1 second. We've got to get some names. I should always have this up. We're gonna say it's wow, this is a really bad program. Okay.
Well, taking inspiration from a book series I've been rereading, we could always have a Mr. Maturin studying at the university.
No, we'll go with Bael, as in Bael, and then we've got Erin, Erynn. And then Johan are 3 physiker, college level people that you start courting based on your current level of connection. Okay?
Alrighty, and those are my 2 actions.
All right. So downtime activities. Let's head north to Jonas.
All right, so I got 2 in mind. First, I too am going to start a long-term project.
Okay.
Scope of which is ritual research. I do have a contact that deals in spirits, so I'm thinking he might be able to help set me off in a direction.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of the direction I'm thinking.
So what's your best case scenario of what you're looking to have happen?
I figure it's going to probably be multiple parts. I need to track down a source of a ritual.
All right. So would you say it would be safe to say? Now, do you think that this would be the kind of... Actually, let's think about it this way. Is this the kind of organization where the kind of thing where you think you'd have to go to like the Path of the Flame or one of the secret societies? Or do you think this is something that you'd be able to find at the university?
I think if I was to find it in the university, it's going to be buried pretty deep under a heavy lock and key. I think I'd probably have an easier time buying it from an underworld source once I track down someone that has it.
Your one coin that you kept.
My one coin that I kept so far.
Okay. All right, so I will say that that is a 4-tick long-term project.
Okay.
You know, you're just trying to basically find what you need to use your skills to construct the ritual, right?
Correct.
Yeah, let's go with that. And what do we think? Let's look at your sheet real quick. What do you think would apply to that?
In terms of skill,
Yeah.
consort probably be my closest skill that would get me down that path, or possibly hunt, which I don't have trained.
Okay, so I'm gonna say. Now, do you know of anyone who's done this type of magic in the past?
So my strange friends is Flint, and he is a spirit trafficker. So he might be able to, like I said, point me in a good direction, if not have some information directly.
Okay, so yeah, why don't we go ahead and why don't we roll consort?
Okay.
Now I'm gonna say that this is because you have that contact. I'm gonna give
Yep.
you a situational 1 die. Do you think
Like
that so you're gonna be rolling 2 dice instead of 1?
Okay. 5 and 3.
Okay, so you take the 5.
Yep.
So that's 1 tick.
Okay.
All right, so you start putting together the pieces, and you start hearing rumors of different whispers. For the rumors are a little spotty, but there's a couple different whispers in existing gangs that have pulled off a ritual, but you're not too sure yet because a lot of the people that you talk to about it aren't magically inclined, so you're describing what you're looking for, and they don't know
Okay.
how to quantify what you're looking for. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. They've heard something like what I've described, but no definitives.
Right.
Okay. So I don't have any large amounts of stress. So I think I might spend the rest of my downtime possibly training command.
Okay.
Or training resolve specifically, not command, since it's...
Do you want to talk about how that works?
So, I mean, command is...
No, not command.
Oh.
Training.
Training. All right, so according to the book, I spend my time Mark 1/8 XP on the attribute or playbook. So in this case, it'd be the attribute. We don't have the crew upgrade, right? No, I don't think so.
That's not the one you guys took. So you just mark it on your sheet.
Okay.
Yep. And it makes it so that even if you don't have something cool to do, right, you can always just be like, but I get a little better at doing my jams, you know?
Right.
So we're going to say, and So you're working on Resolve and you're working on Command. Talk to me about how you're training Command. Where are you going? What are you doing?
So, from my character's perspective, Command is kind of somewhat involved in talking to the ghosts and telling them what to do. So I guess I'd practice by, I don't know, attuning to the ghost world and seeing if I can tell ghosts to do things. I'm not sure what else would work there.
Yeah, that works. All right, so talk to me a little bit, Birdie, about what you're doing during the downtime between our 2 sessions.
Okay. I saw an interesting thing in the long-term projects, and I'm hoping you can help me with it. The character I created, because of who the character is, I put her obligation, her vice's obligation, and it's to her family. There is a mechanic in downtime where I can change my vice. I can start a long-term project to change my vice, and that's what I want to do.
Okay.
How to go about doing that within the fiction?
So your current vice is what?
Obligation to her family that she's trying to get out from under.
Sounds like you need a psychotherapist.
So your obligation to your family is based on what specifically? You feeling guilty? You're dependent upon them financially? You're dependent upon them for a substance?
I'm guessing guilt. It's the only thing I can think. Like I said in the first session, they've been there as long as the nobles, and they think that will protect them.
Okay.
So she just wants to get away from them because they're peaceful.
Let's look at your sheet real quick. I know you're in here somewhere. Oh, you didn't get resized like everybody else. Give me a second.
I'm okay with being small, so it makes me seem more harmless.
Seem.
I know it's in here. There it is. All right. So there you are. Okay. So why don't you do me a favor? Why don't you roll, or what do you think? So what I'm thinking is you need a new family. And maybe this gang is your family, but it's a little too early to tell. So why don't we have you roll? I think this is going to be a long one. I think this is going to be, because a vice is something that's very integral to your character. Do you think that this would be a 6 or an 8 tick clock?
Well, she's already made the first step of like going out and finding a crew to work with, so I would argue for 6.
Okay. So why don't you do me a favor?
Okay.
And why don't you roll consort, as you know, during this downtime you're trying to connect with the gang and build it up for more a group of professionals and try to make more meaningful connections with the rest of the gang.
All right, here goes nothing.
Go.
Oh shit! I got 6s.
6s?
2.
Okay. So
Isn't that for downtime?
No, that's for removing vice.
Oh, okay.
So you mark 3 tick marks on your clock for your long-term project.
Nifty.
Yep. What are you going to do with your other downtime activity?
Since not to ride on Abernathy so hard, but since I am trying to solidify things with the group, I'm going to train in I think I'm going to train in Resolve because it's my lowest, and I'm going to follow him to the whorehouse and learn what I can from the people who are supposed to make you feel really good.
I am sure I would be delighted to show you a number of things.
You professionals.
So mark the EXP on the Resolve track. All right. So that moves us on to Bluefoot.
Well, going last in the rotation, I have, I think, a pretty good idea of how I want to spend my downtime. I'm going to start on a long-term project to improve the physical security of our hideout.
Oh, I like that. What are you thinking? So you're in that old tower. So you guys have like this old like watchtower that you are in. Maybe that used to be either, like a private estate tower, or maybe even just like an old bluecoat station, but it's fallen into disrepair, right? You're able to hide out mostly because the interior of it, is protected. So what are you thinking about doing?
Well, I'm going to use my study and my tinker to examine the property for where there are weaknesses and redress those to make sure that the doors and locks are resistant to intrusion or sabotage.
Isn't there a list?
What's that?
Isn't there a defined list of improvements we can make to the hideout? One is locking doors. I think one is expanding our vault. I think one is adding on our own private brig so we can take prisoners, that kind of thing. I just don't remember what page it is.
Yeah, I'm looking it up. Yeah, there is something specifically for that. But yeah, that is a type of long-term project that you can work on, and you're definitely the person to do it. You're the one who has the tinkering and like machinist style expertise. So let's find that.
So, yeah. And I don't know if we need to gain levels as a crew to get those, to do those sorts of improvements, or...
I believe...
Either. I just remember there being a list of...
Those are the crew upgrades, right? For the actual crew itself. But you're trying to do something which is a separate long-term project of just repairing the building that you're in. Because it starts as a crumbling, broken down tower. I'll allow that. Let's take a look at your sheet real quick. So, you're pretty good at tinkering with things from what I can see. So let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned specifically, because the whole premise is where you started is like everything is crumbling and broken. So let's just basically say that you are working towards making the building safe from the elements so that there's proper doors and windows, banging out the bent frames. When buildings are derelict, people smash windows and bend the metal frames of doors and things. So let's talk about you doing that. Why don't you do me a favor, and we'll call this... It's not too complicated. It's just more time consuming. So why don't we make that, what do you think, a four-tick clock?
Okay.
And why don't you roll Tinker for me, which is very high for you.
Now, Dan, is this something that if I hadn't used all my downtime actions, I could help him with?
Now, technically, downtime activities that are long-time projects, you do have to basically share a downtime action, but that's certainly something we can collaborate on if you guys discuss between sessions, a downtime activity that you want to collaborate on. Yeah.
Okay.
So I got a 5, 4, and a 1.
So you use your highest, so a 5 is 2 ticks on the clock.
All right. And I think for my other action, my other downtime action, I'm gonna try to train prowess in wrecking, and I'm gonna try to do it by doing a lot of the stuff that I'm doing for the renovation, basically pulling down stuff that is broken in preparation for putting up stuff that is not broken.
I like that. So you're ripping off the old pieces and you're figuring out like the structural weaknesses of the structure from taking it apart and putting it back together to repair it. You're doing some real Property Brothers Doskvol edition.
Aaron wants to jump in. All I'm going to do is walk by while he has like a sledgehammer over his shoulder and smack him on the ass and say, "Good game."
Good game. All right. So that's our downtime activity. So now we jump right into the next score. So there's some opportunities that I want to provide, things that I have done by rolling and figuring out kind of what's going on in the background. But you guys are free to come up with your own idea for a score that you want to do, or we can also always roll on the chart if nothing that we have going tickles your fancy. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So one of the ideas that I had is, as we were discussing with Lissa from the Crows, who's trying to, kind of cement her position now that she's taken over the gang from her murdered former boss. I wanted to talk a little bit about, you guys have kind of jumped in head first into this war in Crowsfoot. So I think one of the opportunities that is going to present itself is, just as you said earlier, I forget which member of the party talked about the Bluecoats and the inspectors and the Crows. The inspectors sense blood in the water, right? And they want the ability to get leverage over Lissa and the Crows. They had a détente with the former leader of the Crows because, a lifetime of criminal work, the feds or the police and the bosses have enough dirt on each other that they come to basically a mutual peace. But they want to get the upper hand this time. So they want you, the target is the Crows, specifically Lissa, and they want you to set up and capture her brother, Gerald, who they want to basically use as leverage. They have outstanding warrants for him, and they're hoping if they can toss him in jail, they can use his safety as leverage. The other job that I have available for you is that Boz from the Lamp Blacks was pleased with what you'd done before, and he sent word that he wants all of you to find a weak spot in the Red Sash's security. Do some spy work. Find some breaches in the Red Sash's security at their sword school headquarters so that they can try to pose a sneak attack to get rid of some key members and steal some, high value property. You're not the ones doing that. You would be setting them up to do that. So, thoughts?
I'm more spying than the kidnapping.
Say that again?
I said I'm more about the spying than what sounds like kidnapping.
Well, it sounds like we're just setting them up. We're not actually doing the kidnapping. We're creating a situation where the inspectors can snatch them up.
Yeah, but do we want to further link our reputation to our patron?
Well, part of it is if we continue with it, we might fill his clock of paying him back, and then we'll no longer... Because right now we've got a negative rep with all three of the big gangs.
He means the Bluecoats.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the wrong one. My mistake.
Here's my thing. I'm super good at finding people. But at the same time, here's my thing. Yeah, okay, we're spies and we're building up the established order people, the state-sponsored gang, the feds. But at the same time, we came in at the beginnings of this we're just starting out, and I kind of don't want the Crows' attention at this point because they are the biggest and the baddest. Like, it's one thing to come in and fuck with the Lampblacks and the Red Sashes. Like, it would, thinking like a new gang, as long as the Crows are sat at the top doing all the things they're doing, the heat is off of us. If we started going after them with confidence, like, the heat wasn't going to come at us as a weaker gang. It's basically like flying the flag, like, hey, we're not worried about the Bluecoats because we have some in our pocket.
So don't be too worried about those types of things, or that is something to be concerned about. But one thing to kind of steer away from in this game is worrying too much about the negative effects of doing a job, because it's my job to make sure that literally every score that you complete has negative effects for the gang.
How about this?
All right, cool. You make your negative effects. I'm worried about when we get dead and when not.
That's true.
Yeah.
Now, keeping in mind, the Crows had control over this area, but it was primarily personal cult of the cult of an individual personality behind their leader. Both them, the Red Sashes, and the Lampblacks are tier 2 gangs. So they are approximately the same level of threat to you. The Crows were previously more part of the political establishment. Abernathy, are you with us?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
We lost the brains.
Nope, he's back.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry about that. Personally, I would weigh in for the job for the, against the Red Sashes, and my rationale is this. Right now, none of the 3 major gangs like us. The Crows don't like us, the Red Sashes don't like us, and the Lampblacks don't like us. If we do this for the Lampblacks against the Red Sashes again, we have a chance of going from all 3 of them being irritated at us to at least one of them being neutral at us while filling in his clock. So they're all going to be taking this regardless. But if we could just... I don't really see a net positive kidnapping the guy, because the people we would kidnap him for already like us. If we go in and try to infiltrate the swordsmanship school, we have a chance of making somebody who doesn't like us not dislike us anymore. And I think that's a good goal.
Especially since they are the devil's next door.
And since we're just setting up the score, there's also a chance the Red Sashes won't realize it's us, and their reputation towards us might not worsen.
I'm going
I'm with
A
you.
bold
Go ahead,
suggestion.
Simon.
to make a bold suggestion here, which is that we do the infiltration job, and that we, in lieu of coin, up front, ask for a share of the score when they attack.
Interesting.
That's assuming that they're getting money out of it and not just trying to physically knock them down.
Yeah, they weren't looking for money. They were looking to take out a few heads.
But I think it would also, it would also cement our reputation. Maybe instead of doing 1 tick, we could get 2 ticks on our clock towards resolving our reputation with the Lampblacks.
We're not asking for anything until they profit from it. So that might endear them to us a little bit.
Well, okay. Let's
So, just to throw it out there, I say we just stick it in the eye of the Crows and, take over their position. But hey, that's me. just to be contrary, but I'm down for whichever.
I honestly don't think the Crow's job is going to get very far. I mean, if everybody thinks that Lissa killed Gerald and he was the person she was working with, or
No.
Rorik, she killed
Rorik,
Rorik.
right.
I mean, do we know for a fact that she likes her brother?
well,
Coming from the person who's already left her family.
the other thing you guys mentioned coin. if you make a linked score, I'll make it so that you can basically increase the magnitude of the score, but that'll be something that you'll discuss with Boz when you speak with him, and the degree to which that is successful. I'm not going to let you end up with a smaller take, but the degree to which that's successful is going to depend on a discussion with him and the degree to which you may end up being involved in the later mission.
Okay.
So
No.
let's talk a little bit. So what exactly are we doing? Which one are we taking now? Remember, also, just because you're not taking the job from the inspectors now, that doesn't mean that you can't take it later necessarily. It just may get more complicated, or it may be less lucrative.
Right. And it sounds like everyone wants to go get rid of this issue with the lampblack, so let's go do that.
Okay, so you're going to go talk to Boz.
Yes.
Okay? And you're going to take the job, and what he's really looking for, let's get very specific in games terms. The target is the Red Sash's headquarters. The target is a strong weakness or point of entry for the lampblacks to make a strike. Okay? And there's some things that are going to complicate that I have in mind. That will come up at a later time. And then the situation there is that, obviously, the Red Sashes are in high alert. They're basically a Bravo-style gang that used to be a sword school, or they still are a sword school, but think of them basically kind of like a martial arts or swordsmanship dojo that has turned into a gang. But there's a lot of nobles that still go to this school. So that's something else to keep in mind, that the people that you may be dealing with may be slightly more important than they appear, meaning that people may note that they go missing. And that's something that would be public knowledge that you would know.
Okay.
All right, so that's the job. So before we do anything else, I want someone to roll a consort dealing with Boz.
I'm going to guess I'm going to be volunteered for that just because of the position I've been set up for, but if anyone else would like to take it, feel free.
So
It's all you, buddy.
So tell me how you position this, where you're going to say in lieu of payment, you want more future payment when you give the Red Sashes what's coming to them. How do you position this as to him?
I'm going to position it as we've already had one good score together. This is an opportunity to set up to show that we can help set you up for more scores. If we're such good working in a pair, if we can do stuff to help you on our own, and we can do stuff to help you, it would be better to maybe start getting into the idea of some joint benefit from doing that. Because if it's going well already, there's no reason to think it won't go well in the future. And if this pulls off better, there's reason to think it actively will be better in the future.
Okay. Well,
so
I usually pay my informants for their time, and I send them on their way. If you want more of the big take, you got to be part of the big show.
What do you have in mind, aside from the setup?
So you're going to be making way for my people, but you need to make sure, I know, and he kind of eyes you up and down, and he says, I know none of y'all are made for hard scrapping, but I need y'all to keep an eye on the streets, and when we come in to do our cleanup, you make sure nobody gets away, nobody gets out to the bluecoats, by whatever means you see fit. And then I can see square to give you half again a share of what we were going to give you.
I think that sounds fine to start with. We go in, we set it up, you go in, and we help keep it contained.
All right. You just understand, we hear a whistle or we find out somebody got out and went home crying to their mommy, that we're going to have words and you're going to get a reduced payment, to say the least.
Well, we'll come back, we'll discuss the plan and figure out where we can be to keep them contained after we find you your avenue of approach.
Perfect. And he sends you on your way. So we're going to go right into the engagement roll for the actual score. So who's going to roll the engagement roll?
Well, what's our approach going to be?
So let's talk about that. What is our approach going to be?
Well, we have more social people and at least one good fighter. So what I'm thinking is maybe we go in posing as plumb idiots who don't know anything about no gangs, but we like the idea of their school. We got some people who can look, see if there's any spirits about. We got someone who can eye up the building, keep an eye out for trapdoors, hidden windows, that sort of thing. We got one lady who I'm sure can handle a sword and possibly keep some of them up.
Wait, I'm a sharpshooter. That's. I'll go in and be like, look, I'm good at long arms. Now I want to get good at melee.
Okay, so
we got some people who can talk about.
We're overthinking it somewhat, right? Again, we're getting a little bit too much into the D&D mindset of like coming up with like your full cover story. So if you pick social, just you give me one detail. What is the social connection that is enabling you to start this as a social score?
All right. In that case, I think my plan would fit more deception, lure, trick, or manipulate. The method of deception is we're going to be posing as students to get into the building and know about it.
Perfect. What kind of loadouts is everyone taking?
Well, if we're going social, then I think we have to go light.
You don't want to be wearing armor?
Maybe we think we need it for class.
Of alchemicals, I think might be
Okay, that's fair. Does everybody agree that you're gonna go light?
Do we all have to go the same loadout?
Not necessarily.
Yeah, so I think I would probably go normal. Most of my stuff that could possibly be useful is small. So while it's normal, it's not big.
You're less conspicuous. You, not your shit, is the conspicuous part of this situation.
Very much so.
Okay, so Jonas is going to go in with a normal loadout, and then is everybody else going in with a light loadout?
Light.
Yeah, light.
Light.
All right, so you don't tell me whether you have your guns or whatever yet, right? That's all part of when we're there. All right. Roll that engagement roll.
Alrighty, so let's figure out how many dice we would get first. We get one die for sheer luck. And on page 128, it lists the other things. Dan, rather than going through each of them, would you like to tell us which, as the GM, you might think apply?
So this is where something I think. Let's take a look at the character sheet real quick. So if we take a look at our character sheet here, I don't know if you necessarily have a direct like contact or friend that would be part of this, considering your cohort is Rooks and your contact is a blue coat. But I'm willing to give you the +1 die because this is bold as shit. Because you're basically going to just try to get in, do some on-site reconnaissance, and sneak around without getting cut to ribbons. So I'm willing to give you the additional die for this being a very bold plan.
So you said that, or rather, Boz said that, nobles sometimes frequent this. Jesse and James can't help us out there and give us put in a good word for us?
Let me see. Yeah. All right. So we'll do 3 dice. I think that's fair.
Sweet.
All right. I rolled the last engagement roll for the first session, so why doesn't someone else roll the 3 dice?
I got it. Mind you guys, everyone but, Birdie has seen me roll, and it's always bad, so here we go.
I already burned my 6s, man.
6, 2, and 1.
Okay. So you're in a controlled position when the access starts. So what I'm going to say is that Jesse and James, one of the two of them, used to have a partner, significant other, that frequented the sword school. So you were able to get an invitation for, let's say, the 4 of you to come as potential students. And the cover is that you're like 3rd and 4th children of merchant families looking for somewhere to spend your lives and practice your craft. Yeah, so you're in a controlled, and that's enough of me talking. So tell me, you guys are at the door, right? Their sword school is got, a pretty large, it's a mansion basically, with like a huge, athletic grounds around it. Things like that.
So we're like at the front gate?
You're at the front gate.
Okay.
All right, and there's 2 guards. They're looking over the hand-drawn calligraphy invitation that you received. And they're going to say, all right. It's a little late, but I'm sure we've got one of the lieutenants that can show you around. Wait right here.
Okay.
So that's the situation. Tell me about what we're doing. So the first obstacle here is that there are people, they're going to take you on a very guided tour, and that the first obstacle is that basically someone's going to be holding your hands this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first obstacle to set up.
Alrighty.
Let's see. So I guess we probably need to come up with a way to allow someone to slip off that's sneaky.
Okay. So anybody can do that. If somebody has an idea for it, just tell me what you want to have happen, and then we start building it. So you're there. You can do flashbacks. You can say that you have gear, right?
Right. So one of the gear I can bring is a large weapon. I could have a huge sword that's like way too big for my meek frame. And see if I can draw some attention that way. I don't know if that's useful or not.
Okay. Well, you can do linked plans. So you can do a group action where who do we have that's a sneaker person?
It's supposed to be me. But I only have one prowl.
I also only have one in prowl, but I was going to stick with the person hand-holding to see if I could weasel information out of them. That's more my...
Okay, so if you want to do this, if you want to do the sword thing, we could do a team plan, okay? So,
okay.
So what you could do is you could take out this comically large sword, okay?
Comically large.
Yeah. Did I stutter?
No, it's definitely comically large for my frame.
So we'll say, am I not? Wow, Jonas, you have a lot of tinker as well.
Yes, I do.
So you're gonna roll consort.
Okay.
Actually, no, only one person makes the action roll. So you're gonna basically be like, so is this the kind of thing that I'm gonna be working with, right? Like that kind of deal where you're like wildly gesticulating.
Two-handed, falling all over the place, very, very dangerously waving this heavy metal sword around.
So you're gonna take 1 stress to do that.
All right.
And you're setting up a maneuver to give 1 additional die to Birdie or Daimi to try to basically not move up with the group and then have her not be noticed as she slinks over
into the bushes fence. Or something, right?
Yeah.
Can I was going to ask, what if only one person could do an action roll? Like I can't do something while they're doing something else? If Abernathy has points in Prowl, I want to be speaking to the other students, and then I'm going to pull the trademark girl move and be like, I got to go to the bathroom. Somebody come with me. But I'm going to ask one of the students so that while they're down there, I can be like, so where do we sneak out to smoke or make out? If anyone knows the way in and out of the building where no one can see in or out, it's going to be the other students.
Okay.
That's clever.
That is clever. So we could also do that.
I had a plan, which was when they set us up for sparring. Let's see what you've got. I would have a alchemical, basically just a pouch of fake blood, and
okay.
I'd take a seeming wound in hopes of being taken to the infirmary.
Okay, so these are all different plans that we can use at different times. So let's say, there's no immediate danger because you're there with a purpose. So you're taken inside by, let's say, one of the capos for the red sashes is, I'm going to use an old character name of mine. We're going to say Armand.
Sorry.
And he's going to begin taking you around the grounds. And, there's some electro lamps running, even in the middle of the night on the grounds, and there's people, drinking, smoking, practicing with various degrees of skill, and he's walking you around there. They have a pretty, for a gang, a street gang, they got a pretty nice setup. They seem pretty well fed. Most of them are in decent clothes, except for those that look like real newcomers. A lot of the newer gang members seem to just have very simple colors and just like dirks strapped, across their backs, whereas the older heads have sabers, rapiers, longer blades with finer crafts.
Are we thinking we picked the wrong group to get into bed with?
Nah. So Armand, how many students do you have here?
Well, that's a trade secret. We wouldn't want people to know how many people that we have wandering around. But, we've got enough to shake down a good size section of the town if we need to turn out and find somebody. But, don't you worry your pretty head about that right just yet. All right. So, he's going to say, so, you guys are a pretty varied group to come together. How are you all connected to Jesse?
Isn't it obvious?
No, that's why I'm asking. So are you gonna do your thing now, Daimi? Will you try to find the ladies' room?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. So now we're going to do the exact same thing that we were doing before. So you're going to kind of say Aaron or Jonas. So this is where your character is going to... Tell me what your character does to create a little bit of an embarrassing scene with this sword.
So, and I kind of struggle pulling it out of, this giant sheath I have strapped to my back. I've been lugging it around. So I pull it out. Is this the kind of thing we're going to learn here? And I'm kind of waving it in front of me, like obviously not threatening in any way, shape, or form, but in such a manner that he's going to kind of be kind of watch where you're swinging that thing.
The stress that you get from doing this is mostly shame.
That's that's fine.
All right, so roll your prowl after you or your consort, I should say, Daimi, as somebody, he pulls somebody off the grass who's like smoking a pipe, watching a couple people spar. Hey, Tina, show this dame where the head is and bring her back.
The head, I love it. Do I get 3?
You get whatever your normal consort is, plus an additional die from the distraction.
2, 4, 5. I got a 5.
Oh
no.
Right. So tell me what you want to have happen. Tell me what your character does. We did that a little backwards. Tell me what your character does.
I mean, she's gonna ask. Well, now that we're away from the people in charge, that would maybe discourage that kind of behavior. Where do we steal away to?
All right. Well, you're in a controlled position, but I'm going to say it's only going to be a standard. It's going to be a standard effect. This person, Tina, has no reason to doubt what you're doing, but she doesn't have any reason to just be like, oh, and by the way, the secret door that we sneak out of when we're on guard duty is... So, when you get that roll, you got your yeah, that seems good. Okay. So, you can either have a minor complication, a reduced effect, or you end up in a risky position. In this case, what I would offer you, and what I think might be appropriate, is that you go from controlled to risky, because now you're asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
And while she gives you the information, go ahead.
Well, I was what I was trying to set up before, the haha. It was a haha at the time, but saying, isn't it obvious? I was going to say we all have her in common, and now we're trying to get more impressive because she left us. Is there a way to mitigate the risky? Because, I'm asking questions, where do we go to make out? Obviously, I'm a flip skirt. It's in character.
Okay. I mean, then I would say that you have a... Well, so, when you roll the 4 or the 5, there has to be a complication of some kind, right?
Right.
You can take stress to negate what I'm offering you. Right? You can keep control of the situation by giving yourself some personal stress. You understand?
Yeah, what were the 3 options?
Well, I'm saying the options here are you can either have a minor complication, or you can have the personal situation for you now separated from the party go from controlled to risky.
What's a minor complication? She remembers my face, or...
Well, mentioning the first time you meet somebody, something like that, is a detail that might make you more memorable to her. Right? So I might start a clock for, who is that? Who is that who came around the night before we were attacked? You know what I'm saying? Where you're more notable to this person.
That would be a nightmare for her. She goes out of her way to be forgettable.
Okay.
So I would lobby for that. I'm pretty sure that's even on my character sheet.
Okay. So would you rather just go from controlled to risky? Or would you rather just take the stress to negate it entirely?
What does he do to me?
Take the stress.
All right. You guys are boring.
All right, so...
We're just getting started. There's plenty of time for the shit to hit the fan. So what you're going to do is
you're going to roll consort in this case, because you're going to try to talk it off.
Wait, I did. Again?
That was for the action roll. This is the resistance roll.
Okay.
You roll 2d6 and add nothing. Tell me what your highest die is.
Another 6 from the die you gave me.
Okay, so normally you would take Sistrax minus the highest die result, so you get 0 stress.
You were just in
Well
your
done.
element, girl.
Sorry.
That's fine.
Even I don't know if you can see it.
So what you get out of the initial roll is that you find out that the gate, there's only one gate in and out of the north and south sides that are like heavy iron, extremely loud gates. But there is an old like root cellar at the edge of the property that the younger members of the gang have found out. There is basically a like pipe cover in there that when you pull it out, it leads to the sewer tunnels that comes up like right outside of the compound, and it's just like a straight ladder climb up to the street. But it's hidden on the inside of the root cellar, but it can be accessed from the sewers. And that's also sometimes how they'll bring in contraband when they know, small contraband when they know that the Bluecoats are watching the gates.
It's useful.
Now, but only one person can fit through that at a time.
Well, that sucks.
And it's something like when she goes to show it, goes down into the root cellar to show you where like they hang out when they're getting high or doing whatever they're doing. You do see that there is a bar on it that's on the inside to open that gate.
So one of us would have to stay here to open it.
Potentially.
Or possibly sneak back in.
Or bribe.
But that is a weak point in their defensive perimeter that you've discovered.
Okay.
All right, so let's clip back to the rest of the party, who are still walking around with Armand and getting the tour of the school.
So, Armand, what is the what's the course of study here? What's the curriculum? My
He's
father
like,
was very interested that I should learn.
Curriculum.
That I should
Does
learn
this look like a college?
the swords. My father is very keen that I should learn about swords. As you can see, I'm not really very experienced with that.
Well, really, the best way to describe our curriculum here is that we find somebody who can stand the sight of you, and we find a weapon that seems to fit well into your hands.
You mean like this one?
No, more or less the exact opposite of that. And they teach you, and they beat some sense into you until you know how to take care of yourself. And then once you can take care of yourself, you start repaying the gang by helping take care of our interest, or take care of the school by taking care of our interests.
So that's like the tuition, then.
In a way.
Do we remit that to the bursar directly, or is there a provost?
He's just kind of looking at you. He's like, a what? Or a what?
Do you have a financial aid office?
No. The financial aid is what you lift off of unsuspecting merchants. Everybody earns their keep around here, whether they come from noble born or not. Everybody's welcome, but everybody works. Now, I'm sure that won't be a problem. Now, so the next obstacle that you guys have to overcome is you need to discover, I'd say, well, a goal, let's say. You need to discover at least one other weakness, whether it's a person or an actual part of the terrain. And you also need to disengage yourselves effectively from Armand and the other people in a way that's not going to raise suspicion.
So can we flash back and get some information or gather information from our crew contact?
You tell me. Can you? Could you have a flashback that would be appropriate for the situation? I'm not the final arbiter of what's possible, Aaron. You paint me a picture with your mind brush.
My mind brush is very binary. However, I mean, we have a blue coat contact. I mean, we could try and gather some information from him historically to see if there's someone there that might be,
maybe already a blue coat mole.
That, or open to bribery.
So the Red Sashes don't have any connection to the police. They are a gang, and a very, very violent one at that. So they are bravo. So they're territory hungry, protection money hungry, like street gang. Think like if Oliver Twist and like a samurai dojo had a baby.
Oh my.
That's what we're dealing with here.
So it's unlikely there's somebody in there that would be a narc, so to speak.
Not that you would probably be able to easily find, but you could certainly try to roll it. So you're going to basically try to flashback and see if you can find anyone who might be not fully sold on what they're doing here.
Yes.
So, how would you be finding this person? Where would you go? What kind of place would you go?
Assuming they're not all locked into, staying on premises, a nearby, maybe an alternate school, or maybe a fight club or a bar, a rough, rowdy kind of bar.
Okay. So, go. What do you think that would? What skill do you think that would fall under?
It's probably hunt, to be honest.
All right. Now, that's your idea. You don't necessarily have to be the one who does it. Does somebody else want to do that? You can do that as your flashback, Daimi, since you are the person who hunts.
Okay. I have 2.
So this is going to be a flashback for you. So you're going to need to take some stress. Emrys, remind me how many stress she takes for a flashback?
1.
All right. And it's 2 if she wants something super heavy, I believe.
I don't remember that. I remember it's 1 to assist somebody, 1 to do a flashback, 2 to push yourself for an extra die. I don't remember there being anything about the magnitude of the flashback costing more.
Give me a second.
But I am certainly not the most eidetic memory person ever, as anyone who knows me knows.
I keep suggesting things, and Daimi's getting all the stress for it.
Well, if this doesn't work, I have another similar idea.
Okay. So I'm going to say it's 2 stress, because finding somebody inside of this gang that is unwilling to narc on the gang is going to take you some work. Right? And you're going to...
It's the work that I do, though, so it'd be work it'd be stress I'd be taking anyway.
Yep. All right. So roll it.
See if your die serves me just as well. Oh, luck's run out, gentlemen. I got a 2. I got 2 2s.
That's not good.
Good, so good.
Shit, and this bitch knows my face.
All right.
Yeah,
so we flash back to a couple days ago to Daimi in a bar where a lot of Red Sashes like to hang out, pick some fights, play some cards. And you're in a controlled position for this. So it's not as bad as it could have been. So you are going to basically get a risky opportunity. So you can start chatting up somebody whose sibling was recently lost. They joined, let's say it was
while we're handling the flashback, I'll be right back.
We'll say their names are Lauren and Colette, two sisters who joined the gang together. And Lauren passed away in a recent skirmish with the Lamp Blacks. And so you were able to find somebody who's not really happy with how things have been going in the Red Sash, is not really liking, right? You know, when it was doing shakedowns and picking up purses, right, and the skirmishes were a little bit more controlled, things were a little bit better. And now that it's all-out war, things are a little bit more dangerous for especially the low-level members of the gang. However, I'm going to say that moves the mission into a risky scenario for everyone, because the gang is tipped off a couple days ahead of time. Her compatriots who see you at the bar talking to her mentioned to the other members of the gang that there was somebody asking about discontent among the gang. So now you have to be worried about being seen by any of those 5 who were there at that bar. But Colette does tell you that usually because of she makes, these fucks, half of them don't even throw in lot with the rest of us. Armand and the other lieutenants are always out looking for trim. They hardly ever sleep with the gang or go out on any of the hard missions. They're never around when we need them. So that's a useful piece of information. A lot of the higher-ups in the gang and the best fighters don't actually stay in the manor at night. But not many people would know that. The assumption would be that all the lieutenants and high-level bravos would be on site, which would be a strong disincentive for people to attack. So I'll give you some lieutenants. Let me just make up some names real quick. You got to give me a second. So it's going to be Armand.
Can they have some Slavic influences in there?
Yeah, Armand. Let's get some Slavic in there.
Yosha.
Yeah, sure. that works. We'll go with Yuri.
There you go.
Like it.
Danica.
Better.
And Dimas. Dimas. Those are the current lieutenants, but a lot of them have people that they're seeing off-site or long-term projects that are keeping them off-site. So that's something that Colette seemed pretty upset about, that in this skirmish, none of the higher-ups were around to help with the fight that they could have easily turned.
So we have Armand, Danica, Yuri, who else?
Pyotr? Is that right?
Dimas. Dimas.
Dimas?
Yes.
Or Dumas?
Dimas.
All right, so there's just 4?
Yep.
Okay.
I had another idea when it comes towards timing to leave.
Okay.
But we're not quite there yet.
Let's come back to that. So, let's say that Daimi returns from... Or actually, Daimi, what are you doing once Tina is done showing you the secret place that people go to smoke and do drugs and bone?
I mean, we can really hit the head and go back to the like.
Yeah, I'm just wanting to make sure that there was nothing else that you wanted to do.
I just wanted to. I mean, asking for, well, are there any options? Like, that's pushing it.
Yeah, that's fine. So you meet up with the rest of the group, and Armand is gonna be done basically giving you guys the tour. And go ahead.
Well, I have an idea. We have a couple of tinkers on site. I was thinking, you said the place was surrounded by an electro field. Could I use my foresight to assist them? Perhaps by asking a whole number of pointless questions when we ever get to corners or areas that appear, so they could just look at like the electromagnetic field and see if there's any weak points in it.
There's no there's no electro field. They have electro lamps running so that the facility is lit. They have a ghost shield, but they have nothing that would repel actual living beings. Most places of this size, where you have this many people living in close proximity, is going to have a ghost shield to keep hungry ghosts from attacking in the middle of the night, but they don't have anything that would repel living humans.
All right.
Can I make
that?
What?
Can I make
three people talked at once. I need only one person to talk at a time.
I'll go second.
Simon?
Can I make a study to figure out...
tell me what you're doing. Tell me what you're doing.
All right. I want to figure out... Okay, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to figure out where the power for the lights comes from, because attacking the place in total darkness would probably preserve our element of surprise.
Okay. So you want to tell me... So here's the interesting thing about the system that we haven't really delved into yet. You tell me where it is, and then I tell you how complicated it is. So do you think that they have it on site, or do you think they, like, jacked into the main power line because this is an old mansion?
I think it's jacked into the main power line, and so there's going to be a main feed with feeding power to the site as a whole.
Now, do we think that would be a study or a tinker?
Since you're looking for it and not actively trying to mess with it, I think it would be a study.
Okay, so Simon, why don't you roll that?
Can I give him my foresight bonus assisting? Because one of the negative things that can happen is he can get noticed. So if I can distract the guy by talking, he can look without being scrutinized. That would kind of be how I'm helping him do it.
Sure. And is that something that you take stress for, or is that just an inherent part of your sheet?
On my sheet, I can do it twice his score without paying stress.
Perfect.
So I'm going to use one of those 2 times to give him an extra die for this.
So that's going to give you an additional die, one above whatever you would normally have.
Okay. Taking a 6.
Nice. That seems pretty good. So tell me exactly what you want to discover, what your ideal situation is for what you want to have discovered. So they're jacked into the main feed of the power grid. Maybe somebody who's high up in the gang owns this mansion, and they still have enough money to actually keep that juice running into this manor.
So, yeah, my ideal situation is to be able to have basically access to the switches on or off site, where we can cut off power to the mansion, whether that's paying off someone in the power supply company, or whether that's just snipping the wire at a vulnerable place. I want to have some sense of how I can make it dark when the attack happens.
So what I'm going to say is the power line runs... you can see that it runs along the, like there's some stones that are slightly raised almost like a root going underneath the road. It's barely perceptible. But when you see the basically like heavy iron pipe covered wire going over the fence and into that yard, that's not a good access point. Like you would need pickaxes to get to it. But you can tell that same main feed wire goes through zigzags its way through some old abandoned mansions and abandoned properties in this district. So you should be able to very quickly locate a house that runs off of that same feed that basically only has squatters in it, where you can get in and find the pipe or find the main line and either just cut it or, interfere with it in some way. So that's another way in which you're able to help the Lamp Blacks attack. So hopefully it's key to note that even though the Lamp Blacks are pretty numerous and they've got, access to, some pretty heavy weapons, as far as hand-to-hand combat goes, they're pretty outmatched both in number and probably in skill by this gang. So they're going to need every advantage that they can get. That having said, they're not going on an extermination mission. They're just trying to basically run off some of the weaker recruits by making everybody scared by doing this type of strike. So that was a good one. So Aaron, it looks like you have something that you want to chime in with.
So you mentioned that they have a ghost shield, right?
Yeah. Like a very minor one. If you've got this many people in one place,
right?
It's like a buffet dinner.
Does that prevent someone from the inside from accessing out?
Well, you have to dial 9 first.
I know it protects coming in, but what about going out?
Yeah, I mean, it's... you mean, like, can ghosts pass out of the shield?
I'm not quite sure where I'm going.
It's not a force field. It's literally a force field that only affects ghosts.
Right. I'm just thinking I have this ritual that makes things look like ghosts. Maybe that could be used to shake some confidence once the attack happens, but that's down the road. I don't know. I'm just trying to feel through what this ghost shield is.
Jonas, I'm also thinking of when the attack happens, because I was sitting here running through my mind, like, I could stay here and I know where the grate is and I could leave it open and that could be their way in, but then I need to go out and play sharpshooter to pick off the people that are running away. But if you stay inside, then I could already be in position on a rooftop somewhere. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Wait, yes.
Already throwing in with the lamp black.
So we haven't had a lot of gear usage yet, and we've only had one flashback usage. So keeping in mind, any of these plans that are coming up, you can do them now as flashbacks, right? I don't want to suggest because I don't want to necessarily dictate what your characters are doing, right?
What do you mean do them now as flashbacks?
So a lot of what's done in this game is done with flashbacks. So I'm going to use this as a hypothetical example. You could say, when I look for a point of entry, right, I'm going to flashback and say that I brought something with me to mark it in some way. Or I brought some sort of small handheld item to be able to, like, leave a door forced open. Or, you know what I'm saying? Or... Right, it can be as simple as I brought a doorstop with me, or things like that. I brought a rope with. Now that we know that there's this wall around this whole thing, I'm gonna bring a rope with me so that if I see an opportunity to throw it over, like hidden by some ivy, I'm gonna do that. The sky's the limit. You just have to tell me what the flashback is meant to accomplish, and then we roll for it.
Right.
Right, the whole idea is instead of pre-planning or having to come up with something cool in the future of the campaign, you say, you know what I would have done if I had known that there was only one way in and one way out? I would have done X, Y, and Z. And then we resolve having done that.
But it's so hard not to poke at the puzzle.
It's not a puzzle. You tell me what the puzzle is, and then you also solve it.
All right. Well, the puzzle's done. Like, we only have one way in. Didn't Bluefoot have anything he was going to do with fake blood and going to the infirmary and see if there was a way in and out for whatever passes for paramedics?
I have an idea, but since this has been upgraded to risky, I'm feeling like that might raise too many red flags and make it difficult for us to disengage.
Okay, I mean that's fair. So eventually, Armand is going to bring you around on this tour to the opposite side gate, and he's going to say, "Well, you know, this is our main spot, such as it is. This is where most of the new recruits get their education, as you said, Bluefoot, and." You know, we have a lot of other places that you could end up hanging out, but this is the main place. You know, this is where all the takes come and things like that. He is going to... There's nobody posted at this gate, but this gate is a lot less ornate and decorative and is just heavy iron with, like, a big lock and chain on it. And he ends up kind of starts walking you back across towards the main gate, across like the garden area that all of those nighttime activities. Now it's worth noting that this is only about like, I can't remember what the hours are called. I don't have that committed to memory yet, but it's basically like 10 p.m.
So it's dark.
It's always dark. There's no sun.
Remember, there's no sun.
There's no sun, Jonas.
Right. Yes.
Which would be really bad for people with seasonal affective disorder. This is like an entire civilization of people with seasonal affective disorder.
Oh, that's right.
I mean,
Oh.
yeah, the dark is all the time, and so the blades are always there.
Right. They're always there. There's always blades. Technically, there's always a blade somewhere. But anyway... it's like it's 5 o'clock somewhere. But anyway, so any last minute attempts to find
What?
So, I mean, there's that big old lock. I mean, it sounds like it's ripe for trying to pick it open and leave it look like it's locked, but not actually locked. Though we'd have to, again, distract him so someone can sneak off and deal with it. Are there people around, or is it just...
Okay, so I'm going to intercede here. Who would we say is probably the most fancily dressed, well-to-do person in this gang?
Probably me.
Okay, so why don't we do something like a flashback, where you leave your pocket watch somewhere along the walkway leading up. Maybe a building that you stopped in, right? Or, you know, shaking hands, sitting down and talking for a few minutes with some of the young bravos. And that's done via a flashback, right? And then let's look at your sheet. I got you in here. Why don't you do me a favor and roll a prowl?
Alrighty. Well, I just have one. So I want to push stress for 2.
Yeah, this isn't updated for what you removed, so...
well, I removed 4 stress. I haven't added any back yet. So I could add 2 back, go up to 4 stress, and get 2 dice.
I think that might be wise.
So I'm going to do that. I got 2 dice. I got a 5 and a 1, so I'm going to go with the 5.
Okay. So you leave your watch on a ledge, and you manage to do it in some way that nobody sees you placing it there. Okay?
Alrighty.
And I am going to say that this moves the choices that I'm going to give here, because a complication doesn't really work here, because that basically makes the action fail, right?
Because the whole point's to do it unnoticed, so it would probably be limited effect or something.
Well, limited effect doesn't really apply here either, because then again it still doesn't work. So I would say that what's going to happen is setting up this type of situation is going to move you into a riskier situation. So it's
Because it's riskier because so many people have passed by that watch and somehow they still haven't spotted it. So I see that it's there and there's something on my face to betray it that I got to conceal, and that makes it riskier.
Well, I was going to say more so that this is 2 times that somebody in this group has asked to be taken away from the rest of the group, which is somewhat notable. Right?
All right.
So
Notable about having to pee.
we're going to go back to normal time. So this would be, now that you've set up the action, you're going to say, oh, my watch. I forgot my watch. I've got to go back and get it. It's an heirloom, you know. So you jog back to get your watch. Okay?
All
when
right.
you do that, you're able to pass by the lock by yourself. Or that locked gate.
And try to tinker with it, I suppose.
Now, this is also the situation where somebody else in the situation before you go back to get the watch, somebody could try to lift the key, right? And pass it off to you as like a teamwork action. You see what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
So, like, you can set up, like, complicated chains of actions
I have
with
Tinker.
flashbacks.
Right, we wouldn't want Tinker, though. We'd need...
Right, but
Finesse.
2 of you can't go
Finesse.
back to get his pocket watch.
Right.
But I can't pass it off to him.
He can't use your tools. He has no idea how to use them.
Right, but if someone has Finesse, we can try to lift the key or maybe drop a big rock or something. But that's going to make a lot of noise.
I have 1 in finesse.
I also have 1 in finesse.
Yeah, but you're the one going.
So if you guys do it as a teamwork action, the 2 of you, one of you will get +1 dice. So if you're basically like, oh, my watch, I forgot my watch, and he turns to look, right? If Armand turns to look, then Daimi can get a +1 to try to lift the key off, and then hand it off to Abernathy as he goes back to get his watch, and then he can basically like throw the key over the wall or put it somewhere inconspicuous where it can be retrieved later.
Gotcha.
All right. I'm rolling if that's what we're going to do.
I didn't mean to Deus Ex that entire thing, but I'm trying to get you guys to understand like the flow of how like the flashback rolls leading into current events is completely different from the way Dungeons and Dragons work, where you roll a die and then I tell you what happens.
Right. It's
Right.
good. It's good because like the first 6 episodes are your pilot.
Uh-huh.
And as you teach us what's possible, next time we'll come back and be like, so here's what we're doing.
Yep.
But
Hopefully.
right now, what we're doing is rolling.
Remember, you could push yourself for stress or request a devil's bargain from Dan for another die each.
Yep. So I would say the devil's bargain that I would offer you is that you would piss off this faction. So you would bring 2 additional heat onto the gang because you have interacted with the malcontent Colette at
The bar.
the bar, and you also, were interacting with other members of the bar here, Tina, and then also he's gonna notice that you kind of like bumped into him from behind right before his key went missing, right before this attack happened. So that's the devil's bargain. You don't have to take it though.
And I can't consult with the rest of the team. I have to make this decision myself.
You make the decision. It's your character. You're making the choice. Do what your character would do.
bad at making decisions.
Well, just remember, you can always just take 2 stress for another extra die.
I'm gonna take the 2 stress because being known is like Divey's nightmare.
Yeah, remember you never have to take a Devil's Bargain.
Alright, so I got 3. I got 1, 2, 1, 1, and 1, 6.
Okay, so you lift the key without him noticing. Okay, despite it being in a desperate situation now because of Abernathy's flashback. But you lift the key and you make a successful trade-off. So we're going to say that Abernathy successfully stashes the key on the other side of the gate, somewhere in the foliage where it's not going to be easily seen until you can retrieve it. And then he gets his watch and jogs back, and you're pretty quickly escorted. Not escorted, but he finishes the tour and he's going to say, think long and hard, because this isn't as much a school as it is a business arrangement. So I don't know what you've heard from your friends. You know, we like Jesse, but you got to understand that if you sign up with us, there's heavy shit going on, and we're going to expect, you know, a serious commitment. Once you join up with the Red Sashes, it's pretty serious business, and it's pretty serious hurt you're going to be putting on yourself and other people. So if you want to jump in, that's great, but we don't want any half-ass people coming in here, especially now. So think about it, sleep on it. If you show up tomorrow morning for the first day of hanging out with some of our low-level trainers, then we'll know you mean business. But from that point, you're on the job, and we're going to expect you to come through, or we're going to have a problem. So sleep on it. I'll see you tomorrow, or I won't. Maybe I'll see you around at the bar. That's fine too. Have a good night, you guys. And he basically, not indelicately, closes the gate behind you, the main gate, and slides the bolt and the lock into place. And there's just the 2 guards standing outside. They kind of tip their hats at you and say, have a nice night.
And Birdie, or Dimey rather, remember to mark an experience for prowess, because that was a desperate roll that you did.
That's correct.
Marika sucks.
All right. So that is a successful score. You found 2 points of entry. And also a way to enhance the attack of the Lampblacks by cutting the power to their electric lights. So that's pretty exciting. So what we're going to do now, rather than belabor this, is we're going to do a teamwork action for the cleanup section of the job where you're preventing people from escaping. So let's talk about what you guys think are the advantages that you bring to offer for this hunt check, basically.
One of the things I do is for assistance and all. So I want to use my foresight ability to do an assistance again. I want to pretty much figure out what like the best point, or you know, see who I need to talk to, bribe, whatever. Funnily enough, I have interesting documents as part of the load I can carry to find Birdie the best spot around here to sharpshoot from.
Okay. So, if you want to get pretty serious about that, there is a like a roof that has like a carrier pigeon like hut on top of it.
Alrighty.
That has a pretty commanding view of the surrounding area. It's like an old electric like service tower that has like a little like bird cage at the top of it.
I like it.
Okay. Anybody else got anything that they can think of that they want to do with gear or flashbacks?
So, and I don't know exactly what this is, and I can't find a definition in the book. One of my gears is a spirit anchor. What is that exactly?
So a spirit anchor is basically something that you can use, basically like a thumper from Dune, or from Tremors, to attract spirits or to anchor a specific spirit that you have ensnared within Tune to a place to basically hold it and keep it from being able to disappear into the ether.
Okay. So, I mean, I could flash back and drop my spirit anchor, which is just a small rock by that entrance that we walked out of, and is basically going to pull a ghost towards it, right?
Correct.
You might want to wait instead of doing that as a flashback. Do it as part of the score while the fight is going on. After the power has been cut, that's when you drop it, because there's a chance the ghost field might flicker, so they'd be more inclined to believe something's there if something does appear.
Okay. I mean, I can flash back once we get into the actual fight and do that.
Yeah. Okay. And Simon, it looked like you were going to say something.
Yeah, I'm wondering. I mean, I know I haven't invented this, but can I invent it now? Basically, I want to make something that bursts with luminescent fluid, like a bioluminescent, something that shines in the dark.
Okay. Yeah. That's a 1 stress flashback. Emrys or Abernethy, yours is a 1 stress flashback. And also, Jonas, yours is a 1 stress flashback.
Okay.
Basically, I just want to set up so that when they run out the exit, this thing will burst and spray them with luminescent stuff to light them up for...
I love everyone in this bar. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I know that all works. So why don't you, Daimi, why don't you roll that hunt check? And we're going to give you a total, I think, between all of these of an additional +2 dice.
Shit, I only have 4.
Hey,
Need more dice.
Hey, Balder. How's it going? You doing all right? You doing good?
All right, I'm rolling 3 first because I dropped 1. I got a 1, 3, 5, 4, 6.
Okay. So, the night of Doskvol is filled with surprised shouts, and then the sound of powder being discharged and screams as the power goes out basically on the whole block, as Bluefoot cuts the power line several houses down, basically where the tree branch forks off in several directions, turning off power to the whole block. And pretty quickly after that, shots start to ring out, and you hear the sound of metal on metal. Only a couple of people make it out of the gate, and they're hit with that bioluminescent trap. And in pretty short order, Daimi is able to ratchet off a few rounds into them as they're running away and making sure that they don't escape. Now, are you going to wound them and let the lamp blacks finish them off, or are you going to take care of them yourself?
If I take care of them myself, does it advance our debt clock any?
You don't know that. What would your character do?
You should just give that to me. My character would think, take them out myself. Maybe it'll be the debt.
So then that's what you do.
Can I tell if one of them is Tina?
No, not from this distance. And it's also pitch black. All right, so we're going to go. The score is successful. So we're going to move into the next section where we're going to do the same thing we did last time, where we're going to go into the payoff and the heat. And I think we're going to do entanglements to start next time. That way we don't have the downtime kind of bookkeeping as the start. We'll do some of the entanglements where there's some good narrative play there as the start of next session. So the payoff, you guys are going to get 4 rep again. So let's bring up the character sheet for the gang. I know it's in here. Come on. No? Did I miss it? It's in here. I know it's in here. Alright, let's do this way. There we go. We're getting there. There we go. Alright. So, let's bring up the crew sheet. So, we have that you guys are, your rep is going to go up. Oh man, is this not the markable one? Okay. Yeah, it's not going to let me mark it on here for some reason, and also Baldur is clawing me. So for some reason, it's not letting me mark it on this sheet, which is very strange.
Is it because of that highlight you have down there in the corner?
No, it's just because I'm opening it in Acrobat Reader instead of the normal thing that I would open it with. So I don't know why it's not working. Yeah, because this is giving me like the too many options thing. Yeah, okay, it's not going to work. I'll figure it out. Can somebody bookkeep that you guys are at a total of 7 rep?
Got it.
And then also, because you did the enhanced job, instead of it being 4 coin, it's going to be 6 coins.
Hey.
So how do we want to divvy those up? You can put them in the vault, or you can put them in your personal stashes, or put them in your normal pool. Right now, the gang has 3 coins.
I have a proposal.
Shoot.
If anyone wants to hear it. Daimi has like 4 goals in life, and the final goal of that is like not having an alarm in the morning. So she's always going to vote to put money into the gang. I don't want, if you want to split this 3 ways, I say we put 3 in the tank, and then each of you get 3. Each of you gets 1, and I'm fine.
Right now, the only problem with that is that the bank can only hold 4 in coin. So what we could do is we could put 1 into our ready money, and 2 would go to stash. They're not ready money, but they're pretty much earmarked for upgrades later. We'd only be able to draw the 2 out for 1 ready money later, but it'd be pretty much investing the 2 towards an upgrade. So I would be fine with doing that. We bank 1 for money on hand. We put 2 towards upgrading the guild because our vault's not big enough, and then we split the other 3.
Okay.
Fine by me.
All right. So I'm putting the character sheet in the gang part of the Discord, so we can make those changes, because for whatever reason it's not letting me edit it no matter what I do. So we'll just make sure all that bookkeeping gets done. In this case, your heat is going to go up by 4 because of some clocks that moved due to actions that were taken by the party. In addition to that, let me get up the faction sheet. No, that's not. Okay. So as Daimi assumed, the extra engagement and the extra actions brought the Lamp Blacks not just to neutral, but to +1 positive.
It's good.
However,
Good job.
The additional heat from the red sashes means that they were able to clearly identify that you were involved And they don't know that you're in a gang because your gang is too small at this juncture, but they are actively searching you out, and you now currently have a -2 with the red sashes.
Well, fuck them anyway. We think they're tacky.
Well, fortunately, they've also just been weakened a bit, too.
That's true. So that is where we will... let's do EXP really quickly. So let's talk about these sheets. So let's talk about Jonas.
I don't think I had anything major in this one, to be honest. I didn't roll anything in Desperate. I didn't really use Arcane Power or Knowledge. So yeah, I don't think I got anything this go around.
Okay. Abernathy.
I tried to get 2, but there's only one that I get an argument could be made for, because I didn't do a desperate action. I tried with going to the Express Heritage with the long-term project, but I don't think it quite played out that way. Didn't struggle from issues with vice or trauma. So I guess the major question is calculation or conspiracy. Would either the pocket watch caper count as conspiracy, or would the searching out of the pigeon tower count as calculation?
Yeah, I would say that you would mark 1 experience for that.
And that would go to playbook experience, correct?
That's correct.
Alrighty, I will mark 1 playbook experience.
All right, so Daimi, you definitely addressed the challenge with tracking our violence.
Nice. Is that playbook?
That's playbook. And you made 1 desperate action for finesse, so that you mark 1 prowess EXP as well.
Nice.
All right. And then the last one that we need is Dolben.
Yep. I think that I used technical skill to identify the power cutoff and to set the trap.
I agree. So mark 1 experience on your playbook. All right. So that's our bookkeeping. We're going to start with entanglements. Hello? Did I lose everybody?
No, I'm
still here.
We're still here.
We're here, Dan.
Okay.
Where you at, boss?
I'm here. It just showed my mic as off for a second. But anyway, so that's where we're going to leave it for tonight. So we will catch you all next time that we play the Doskvol Dandies, which we'll see when we have the calendar availability. It should be a Monday, and I will put it up on the Twitch, and we will see you all next time. Good night.
Thanks for tuning in.
Go on.
See you guys.